My beloved child, this is not a random moment. This is not coincidence. This message was released as a final mercy, and it found you because heaven heard your plead. The tears you cried in silence, the prayers you whispered when you felt unheard, the questions you asked when nothing made sense. Archangel Michael stands at the threshold right now, and his voice is urgent, firm, yet filled with compassion. Time is pressing. The door is still open, but only for a few seconds more. Listen carefully. Heaven does not send warnings like this casually. When mercy speaks with urgency, it means a decision is unfolding in the unseen realm. You have been standing between obedience and delay, between faith and fear, and heaven has been watching. This message is not meant to scare you. It is meant to wake you up. Because once this door closes, it will not reopen in the same way again. Archangel Michael says, I was sent because your plead reached the courts of heaven. You thought your prayers were too weak. You thought you had waited too long. You even wondered if God had turned his face away from you. But hear this clearly. Your plead was recorded. Your name was spoken. And this message was released as a final act of mercy, not judgment. There are few seconds left. Not seconds on a clock, but moments of grace. Windows of alignment. A narrow opening where obedience can still change the outcome. Heaven is offering you one last chance to open what you have been delaying. You already know what it is. It is the decision you keep postponing. That step you keep saying later to. That obedience you keep negotiating with logic. Archangel Michael says the delay was understandable, but it cannot continue. This door represents access. Access to protection. Access to provision. Access to divine covering that will not remain available forever. You have been asking for signs, and heaven is saying, this is the sign. There is a reason you felt restless before this message started. A reason your spirit tightened when you read the title. A reason something inside you whispered, this is for me. Because heaven does not knock forever. Mercy speaks softly at first, then firmly, and finally, urgently. This is the urgent moment. Archangel Michael is not angry. He is alert. He is not threatening. He is guarding. He says, I am standing at the door you are hesitating to open. Behind that door is not chaos. Behind it is clarity. But clarity requires courage. And heaven is asking you to move now, not when you feel ready. You have been pleading for relief. But relief comes after obedience. You have been asking for breakthrough. But breakthrough comes after movement. This message is not about punishment. It is about timing. And timing is sacred. If you wait, the door will close, not because God abandoned you, but because seasons shift. And once a season ends, what was available before must be accessed differently, often with greater cost. Archangel Michael warns, open now, not tomorrow, not after one more sign. Not after one more confirmation. Now, you may be thinking, what if I open the wrong door? But hear this, heaven would not warn you if this was the wrong one. Fear is trying to freeze you, but fear does not speak with urgency. Heaven does. This is the final mercy considering your plead. And mercy always asks for response. Something has been holding you back. Regret, guilt, or the belief that you missed your chance already. But this message itself proves that you have not. Yet, Archangel Michael says the door is heavy. That is why it feels difficult to open. But once you push, heaven will assist you. Strength will meet you halfway. Do not underestimate what hangs on this moment. There are blessings attached to your obedience that cannot reach you unless you step forward. There is protection assigned to your yes that cannot activate while you remain still. And there is peace waiting on the other side of action. Few seconds remain. This is not about perfection. This is about surrender. Heaven is not asking you to understand everything, only to trust enough to move. Take a breath. Quiet the noise. And listen one last time. Open now. The next revelation will expose why this door matters so much, and what heaven has been holding back, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Beloved one, pause for a moment and feel the weight of what is happening around you. The urgency you sensed earlier is not fading, it is intensifying. Heaven is still watching, and the door is still open, but the air has shifted. Archangel Michael speaks again, not louder, but deeper, as if his words are pressing directly against your spirit. He says the reason this feels so heavy is because this door is tied to alignment, not comfort. Alignment always demands movement, and movement exposes what we have been avoiding. You have been asking why things felt blocked lately, why prayers seemed delayed, why the same patterns kept circling back no matter how hard you tried. Archangel Michael reveals that it was not punishment, and it was not rejection. It was restraint. Heaven held certain things back because opening them before this moment would have crushed you. But now, the restraint is lifting. That is why this message carries such urgency. What was once dangerous is now possible, but only if you respond within this window. This door is connected to authority. Spiritual authority you have not yet stepped into. Authority over fear, over cycles, over voices that told you to stay small. Archangel Michael says heaven cannot force your hand. Even mercy respects free will. But understand this clearly. Delayed obedience changes outcomes. Not because God stops loving you, but because alignment shifts. You are standing at a crossroads where your choice determines which current you step into. You have been pleading for answers, yet answers follow obedience, not the other way around. The reason heaven is saying open now is because clarity is waiting on the other side of action. You are not meant to see the entire path, only the door in front of you. Faith has always worked this way. There is something else you must hear. Archangel Michael warns that distraction is the enemy of this moment. The enemy does not always come with fear. Sometimes it comes with busyness, overthinking, scrolling, and delay masked as wisdom. That is why you always miss this message. That is why something tried to pull your attention away even as you listened. But you stayed. And that matters. This is not just your message. It is also an assignment. When heaven releases a word like this, it is meant to ripple outward. Others are standing at similar doors, unaware that their window is closing. That is why it matters that you engage, that you respond, that you do not treat this as entertainment. Interaction is not just digital, it is spiritual agreement. If this message is stirring something inside you, make it visible. Let your response be counted. Share this with someone who has been delaying their obedience. Leave a comment as a marker, a witness that you were here when heaven spoke. And if you have not yet aligned yourself fully with this space, now is the moment to subscribe and stay connected. These messages are released for such moments as this, and staying connected keeps you positioned when the next word comes. Archangel Michael says there is protection in unity. When many stand under the same word, resistance weakens. That is why engagement matters more than you realize. You are not just supporting a channel, you are strengthening a signal. Something powerful is happening even as you listen. The heaviness you carried into this message is beginning to loosen. That is not imagination. That is resistance breaking. But resistance does not leave quietly. It tries one last time to convince you to wait. To tell you that you can come back later. That later will be safer. That later will be clearer. Later is not promised. This moment is. Archangel Michael says the door responds to movement, not intention. Wanting to obey is not the same as obeying. Thinking about opening is not the same as opening. And heaven is watching for motion. You may be wondering what happens if you miss this window. Mercy will still exist, but access will change. The path will be longer. The resistance stronger. The lesson heavier. Heaven prefers the gentle way, but it will allow the harder way if needed. That is why this warning is filled with compassion but sharpened with urgency. Take note of what you feel right now. A tightening in your chest. A clarity forming behind your eyes. That sense that something is being asked of you personally. This is not a generic message. Archangel Michael does not deliver vague warnings. He speaks with precision. Before this moment ends, anchor yourself. Respond outwardly, not just inwardly. Let heaven see that you heard and that you chose to align. And hold on, because what is coming next explains what stands behind this door and why the enemy fought so hard to keep you from opening it. You will want to stay present for what is about to be revealed. My precious one, the atmosphere has shifted again. What Archangel Michael is revealing now is not for the curious mind, but for the willing heart. He says many hear warnings, but few understand what is truly at stake. This door you are being urged to open is not small, and it is not temporary. It is tied to a covenant moment, a turning point where heaven either advances with you or waits while you struggle longer than necessary. Archangel Michael reveals that behind this door is restoration that was delayed, not denied. Certain things you lost were not taken permanently. They were withheld for protection. You blamed yourself for seasons that felt barren, but heaven says those seasons preserved you. If you had received everything earlier, it would have destroyed you. Now you are strong enough. Now your spirit can carry what is coming. That is why this door exists now and not before. He says this door is connected to truth. Once open, certain illusions will collapse. You will see people differently. Situations will suddenly make sense. Masks will fall, not to shame you but to free you. And this is why fear has tried to stop you. Because truth rearranges everything. Comfort prefers silence, but destiny requires revelation. You have been sensing exposure around you, not just of others, but of hidden motives, hidden patterns, even hidden wounds in yourself. Archangel Michael says do not resist this. Exposure is not punishment, it is mercy. What heaven exposes, it heals. What stays hidden, stays powerful. And this door opens the floodlight. This is also why your plead was heard so clearly. You were not asking for convenience, you were asking for relief. And relief only comes when truth is allowed to breathe. Heaven answered because your heart was sincere, even if your faith felt weak. Faith is not measured by confidence, it is measured by honesty. Archangel Michael warns that once this door opens, there is no return to ignorance. You will not be able to unsee what God reveals. That is why heaven waited for your consent. This door respects readiness. And readiness does not mean fearlessness. It means willingness. There is a calling attached to you that has been dormant. Not because you were unworthy, but because the timing was guarded. This calling requires clarity. And clarity requires courage. When you open this door, you step into a version of yourself that no longer fits into old cycles. A relationship with Shiv. Some conversations will become unavoidable. Some comforts will feel foreign, but peace will increase, not decrease. Archangel Michael says the enemy's strategy was delay, not destruction. Delay. Because delay feels harmless. It feels reasonable. It feels safe. But delay slowly drains purpose. That is why heaven interrupted your routine with this message. This interruption is protection. You may feel unqualified. You may feel late. You may feel unsure. But heaven says this: if you were truly late, this door would not still be open. Mercy does not hover. It moves. And it is moving now. Take this seriously, but do not take it with fear. Fear clouds obedience. Trust sharpens it. Heaven is not rushing you into chaos. It is inviting you into alignment. Once aligned, things accelerate naturally. This moment also marks separation, not from people but from cycles. Cycles of confusion. Cycles of second-guessing. Cycles of silence when you were meant to speak. This door marks the end of spiritual hesitation. Archangel Michael stands firm and says, the pleading season is ending. The responding season is beginning. Before this moment passes, seal it. Let heaven see your agreement, not just hear it. If this message resonates in your spirit, type "I receive the mercy" in the comments. Blessing code 1440 has just been released. This message did not come to you by accident, and this channel is not just a place of videos, it is a vessel. Every seed sown here becomes light for someone standing at their final door. The word spreads where obedience funds it. I hear the Spirit say, I have placed this invitation in your hands. When you give, you are not supporting a platform. You are opening doors for souls who are still pleading in silence. Just as Scripture says that those who sow in tears reap in joy, your obedience releases harvests you may never see, but heaven records every one. I speak blessing over every hand that moves in faith right now. Let your giving become oil that keeps this fire burning. Do it now. Through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal in the description, and watch heaven respond to your response. Beloved child, now that the truth behind the door has been revealed, Archangel Michael speaks with even greater clarity. He says many people stop right here. They feel the weight of revelation, but they hesitate to step forward because revelation demands responsibility. Once you know, you are accountable to move. And this is where the inner battle begins. Not with the enemy outside, but with the voice within that says, what if I fail after I open it? Hear this carefully. Heaven is not asking you to be flawless. Heaven is asking you to be faithful. Archangel Michael reveals that the fear you feel right now is not a warning to stop. It is evidence that something significant is about to shift. Fear only surfaces when territory is about to change hands. If this door were meaningless, there would be no resistance. The pressure you feel is confirmation, not contradiction. You have been trained by past disappointments to protect yourself, to hesitate, to analyze, to wait until everything feels safe. But destiny does not grow in safety, it grows in trust. And trust is being tested right now. This door is not only about what you will receive. It is about who you will become. On the other side is a version of you that no longer needs constant reassurance. A version that moves when God speaks, not when circumstances agree. The transformation is why heaven has been patient with you. Growth cannot be rushed, but obedience cannot be postponed forever. Archangel Michael says something else that is crucial. The moment you open this door, the noise will increase briefly. Old voices will try to return. Old temptations will resurface. Old doubts will knock loudly. This is not failure. This is resistance making one last attempt to reclaim ground. Do not mistake noise for defeat. Noise often precedes breakthrough. You are not imagining the spiritual tension around you. The unseen realm recognizes moments of transition. When alignment shifts, opposing forces react. But hear the reassurance clearly. Protection is already assigned. You are not walking through this door alone. Heaven never sends someone where others have already gone ahead. This is also why rest has been difficult lately. Your spirit has been preparing. Preparation often feels like unrest before clarity settles. Archangel Michael says the exhaustion you felt was not weakness. It was anticipation. Your inner being sensed movement before your mind could explain it. There is also a warning wrapped in mercy. If you open this door halfway, you will feel torn. Partial obedience creates inner conflict. Heaven is calling for a full response. Not because God is demanding, but because partial alignment leaves room for confusion. When you step fully, peace follows quickly. When you hesitate, unrest lingers. You may be thinking about what you have to let go of. That is natural. Every door closes something behind you. But hear this, what you leave behind has already served its purpose. It carried you until now. Gratitude honors the past, but obedience secures the future. You are not betraying where you came from by moving forward. You are honoring it. Archangel Michael reminds you that heaven measures obedience differently than humans do. Humans look at outcomes. Heaven looks at response. Success in heaven is movement when God speaks. Results unfold in layers, but response is immediate. There is something deeply personal about this moment. It is not about public recognition or external validation. It is about integrity. What you choose when no one is watching. What you do when applause is absent. That is where heaven's trust is built. You have asked God many times, "Can I really do this?" Heaven's answer is simple. You would not be invited if you were incapable. Invitation is evidence of ability. Calling always comes with provision, even if the provision reveals itself step by step. Archangel Michael says, do not rehearse old failures. Those memories are not prophetic. They are lessons, not labels. They taught you discernment, not defeat. The wisdom you gained is part of what qualifies you now. This door also changes how you will hear God. Once opened, your discernment sharpens. Confusion fades faster, and it can become clearer. That is why heaven guarded this moment. You needed maturity to steward that clarity without pride or fear. Take a breath. Let the weight settle into resolve, not anxiety. Resolve is calm. Anxiety is restless. Heaven speaks through calm resolve. As this moment continues, know that the next revelation will uncover what happens immediately after the door opens, and why the first steps afterward are just as important as the decision itself. Stay anchored. The journey is unfolding exactly as heaven intended. Beloved one, Archangel Michael now draws your attention to what happens in the very first moments after obedience begins. Many believe the miracle appears instantly, but heaven works with intention, not spectacle. The first shift is not always visible on the outside. It happens within. The moment you open this door, something subtle but powerful takes place. Your spirit realigns. What once felt confusing suddenly feels quiet. Not empty, quiet. And in that quiet, direction is born. Archangel Michael says this is where many misunderstand God's ways. They expect fireworks, but heaven releases focus. You will notice that distractions lose their grip. Things that once pulled at your attention no longer have the same power. This is not because they disappeared. but because your authority over them increased. Authority does not announce itself loudly. It establishes itself calmly. The next thing that happens is separation. Not dramatic separation, not loud exits, but gentle distancing. Certain conversations will no longer interest you. Certain environments will feel heavy without explanation. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. Your spirit is adjusting to a higher clarity, and clarity always refines appetite. You will crave what nourishes you and lose taste for what drained you. Archangel Michael warns you not to panic during this phase. Many misinterpret this adjustment as loss. They think something is wrong because familiar comforts no longer satisfy them. But this discomfort is not emptiness. It is transition. You are shedding weights you did not realize you were carrying. He also reveals that after the door opens, heaven tests consistency, not intensity. Emotional highs are not required. Steady obedience is. You do not need to feel inspired every day. You need to remain aligned. The enemy often waits until the excitement fades, hoping you will retreat. But retreat is not necessary when conviction is anchored. There will be moments when nothing seems to be happening. This is where trust matures. Seeds break underground before they ever rise above the soil. If you dig too early to check progress, you damage the growth. Archangel Michael says resist the urge to measure progress by visible results alone. Heaven measures progress by perseverance. This stage also exposes motives. You will become aware of why you do what you do. Some actions will fall away naturally when their hidden motivations are revealed. Do not be discouraged by this. Purity of motive sharpens effectiveness. Heaven refines before it multiplies. Another important truth is revealed now. Opening the door does not remove challenges. It changes how challenges approach you. Instead of overwhelming you, they refine you. Instead of confusing you, they clarify you. Pressure will still exist, but it will no longer dominate your decisions. Peace will become your reference point. Archangel Michael says this is the season where your voice matters more than you realize. Speaking truth, even quietly, carries weight. Silence used to feel safer, but now silence will feel heavier than obedience. This is not because you are being pushed into exposure, but because truth must flow where clarity has been given. You may notice that answers come faster. Not always the answers you want, but the answers you need. Emission will be quicker. Course correction will be gentler. Heaven speaks more efficiently when alignment is present. This is one of the rewards of obedience that few talk about. There is also a caution. Do not rush ahead of grace. Opening the door does not mean sprinting through every opportunity. Discernment remains essential. Some opportunities are distractions dressed as blessings. Archangel Michael says alignment attracts options, but wisdom chooses timing. Rest will begin to return, but it may feel different than before. It will not be the rest of avoidance. It will be the rest of assurance. Even when tasks remain, anxiety will lessen. This is a sign you are walking in step with heaven's pace. You might still face moments of doubt. That does not mean the door closed. Doubt is a visitor, not a ruler. You are allowed to question without retreating. Faith is not fragile. It is resilient. It grows stronger through honest wrestling. Archangel Michael reminds you that obedience is not a single act. It is a posture. Every day you choose alignment again. Some days it will feel natural. Other days it will feel costly. Both days matter equally. As this stage unfolds, pay attention to the quiet confirmations. Small provisions. Timely words. Unexpected peace in situations that once troubled you. These are not coincidences. They are heaven's way of saying, you are still on the path. What comes next will explain why this season feels slower than expected and why patience now prevents greater pain later. Remain steady. You are not behind. You are exactly where obedience placed you. Beloved child, Archangel Michael now speaks about the stretch of time you are entering, the phase that feels slower than your prayers expected. This is where many become discouraged, not because God is silent, but because growth is happening beneath the surface. Heaven is not delaying you, heaven is stabilizing you. Speed without stability would undo everything you have just aligned with. You must understand this clearly. When God accelerates without foundation, collapse follows. That is why this season feels measured, intentional, and sometimes quiet. Archangel Michael says heaven is reinforcing your roots so that when expansion comes, you will not break under its weight. What you are becoming must be able to sustain what you are about to carry. This phase tests patience, but more than that, it tests trust. Trust that God is working even when progress is not obvious. Trust that obedience was not wasted simply because results are still unfolding. The enemy often whispers, nothing is happening, but heaven says everything is aligning. You may notice that your old coping mechanisms no longer work. The distractions you once used to numb frustration no longer satisfy. This is intentional. Heaven is teaching you to remain present rather than escape. Presence is where instruction flows. When you stay present, you hear God more clearly. Archangel Michael reveals that in this phase, heaven watches how you steward stillness. Do you complain or do you listen? Do you weigh or do you refine? Stillness is not inactivity, it is attentiveness. Those who learn to listen here are trusted with clarity later. This is also the phase where comparison becomes dangerous. Looking at others can distort your perception of progress. Your timeline is not your timeline. Your assignment is not your assignment. Heaven custom builds journeys. What looks like delay for you may be protection from something you cannot yet see. There will be moments when you feel tempted to take shortcuts. Opportunities may arise that promise faster results but compromise alignment. Archangel Michael warns that shortcuts always cost more in the end. What God builds slowly, He secures deeply. Do not trade longevity for speed. During this time, your consistency matters more than your intensity. Showing up daily with a willing heart carries more weight than sporadic bursts of passion. Heaven values faithfulness in the unseen. Seeds grow in darkness before they ever break the soil. You might feel misunderstood by people who knew your old patterns. That is normal. Growth often creates distance before it creates understanding. You are not required to explain your obedience to everyone. Some will only understand you later, when fruit becomes visible. Archangel Michael also emphasizes community in this moment. Alignment does not mean isolation. It means discernment. Stay connected to voices that sharpen your faith, not drain it. That is why being active here matters more than you think. When you like this message, when you comment, when you share it, you are not just engaging digitally, you are standing in agreement. Agreement strengthens alignment. If this message is helping you stay grounded, make sure you are subscribed and connected. These words are released strategically, and staying connected keeps you positioned for what heaven reveals next. Share this with someone who feels stuck in waiting. Your obedience could be the confirmation they are praying for. Archangel Michael says heaven honors those who honor the process. Every time you resist the urge to quit, something is being fortified in you. Endurance is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Those who endure inherit depth, not just success. You may wonder how long this phase lasts. The answer is not time-based, it is posture-based. It lasts until stability is formed. Until your yes becomes reflex, not debate. Until obedience feels natural, not forced. When that happens, movement increases quickly. Pay attention to small assignments, promptings that seem insignificant, acts of obedience that no one applauds. These are training grounds. Heaven uses small obedience to prepare you for larger responsibility. Nothing is wasted. There is grace for mistakes here. You will not execute everything perfectly. But do not confuse grace with permission to disengage. Back up quickly. Adjust quickly. Stay soft. A teachable heart moves faster than a flawless performance. Archangel Michael says something important as this part closes. Waiting seasons reveal who you trust when nothing is happening. If you can remain steady here, the acceleration ahead will not overwhelm you. Hold on. What is coming next explains why certain doors will begin opening unexpectedly and how to discern which ones are from heaven and which ones are distractions. You will want to remain present for this, because this discernment protects everything you have built so far. Beloved one, Archangel Michael now turns your attention to what begins to happen as alignment matures and stability takes root. This is the stage where doors start appearing, sometimes suddenly, sometimes subtly. Not all of them are from heaven. This is why discernment becomes critical now. Earlier, obedience was about movement. Now obedience becomes about selection. Choosing correctly matters as much as moving faithfully did before. You will notice opportunities presenting themselves in unexpected ways. Some will look like answers to old prayers. Others will resemble shortcuts that promise relief without depth. Archangel Michael says this is intentional. Heaven allows options to surface so your discernment can be exercised. Discernment is not suspicion. It is sensitivity. It listens beyond appearance and weighs peace more than excitement. One of the first signs of a door from heaven is peace that remains after the initial emotion settles. Excitement fades quickly. Peace endures. A heaven-sent door may stretch you, but it will not fracture you. It will challenge you, but it will not compromise your integrity. If confusion increases the closer you get, pause. Heaven does not lure, it leads. Archangel Michael warns that some doors will appeal to your impatience. They will whisper, "Why wait any longer?" But impatience is not urgency. Urgency comes from God and produces clarity. Impatience comes from fear and produces anxiety. Learn to tell the difference. One strengthens you, the other drains you. This is also the phase where your boundaries are tested. People may request access to your time, your energy, your gifts in ways they did not before. Not every request is an assignment. Saying no to the wrong door protects your yes for the right one. Archangel Michael says heaven respects boundaries because boundaries protect purpose. You may feel a new confidence emerging, quieter than pride but firmer than insecurity. This confidence is not rooted in self-belief alone. It is rooted in obedience history. You have seen God meet you before. That memory becomes fuel now. Confidence built this way is stable, not reactive. At the same time, humility must remain intact. Discernment sharpens when humility stays present. The moment you believe you no longer need guidance is the moment clarity dulls. Archangel Michael says stay teachable. Stay prayerful. Stay responsive. Maturity does not eliminate dependence on God. It deepens it. You will also notice that some doors close without explanation. This can feel confusing if you expect every closure to come with clarity. But heaven does not owe explanations for protection. Some doors close because they would have cost you more than you realized. Trust closures as much as you trust openings. This season refines your listening. God's voice may not become louder, but it becomes clearer. You will sense conviction faster. You will recognize misalignment earlier. This is a sign of growth. Respond quickly when clarity comes. Delayed response dulls sensitivity. Archangel Michael reminds you that discernment improves with use. The more you practice listening and responding, the sharper it becomes. Do not fear making small mistakes. Fear ignoring repeated nudges. Heaven is patient, but sensitivity requires engagement. Another shift occurs here. Your prayers change. They become less about asking and more about aligning. Less about outcomes and more about guidance. This is maturity. When alignment becomes your priority, outcomes follow naturally. You may also experience moments of loneliness here. Not abandonment, but narrowing. As clarity increases, circles refine. This is not loss, it is focus. Archangel Michael says, do not chase what God is pruning. What remains will sustain you better than what left. Your discernment will also expose false urgency. Some doors pressure you to decide immediately without prayer. Heaven never rushes you into confusion. Take time when needed. Peace will wait for you. Anxiety demands immediacy. Pay attention to how your body responds as well. Often, discernment registers physically before it registers mentally. Tightness, heaviness, or restlessness can signal misalignment. Calm alertness often accompanies truth. Your whole being participates in discernment. This is where wisdom begins to guard your obedience. Earlier, obedience guarded you. Now wisdom guards obedience. You are learning not just to move, but to move well. Archangel Michael says the doors that matter most in this season will not always look impressive. Some will appear ordinary. But heaven often hides destiny and simplicity to protect it from interference. Do not overlook small beginnings. As you navigate these openings and closings, remain grounded. Do not idolize any door. Doors are pathways, not destinations. God Himself remains the destination. When He stays central, discernment stays clear. What follows next will reveal why opposition may briefly intensify as the right doors open, and how to stand firm without becoming defensive or weary. This understanding will protect your peace as movement increases. Stay attentive. The journey is accelerating, but it is doing so with precision. Beloved child, Archangel Michael speaks now with clarity that cuts through confusion. As the right doors begin to open, opposition often rises, not because you are wrong, but because alignment threatens what once had access to you. This is a crucial truth many are never taught. Resistance increasing does not mean you missed God. Often, it means you finally obeyed Him. Do not be alarmed by the sudden pushback. It may come through misunderstandings, delays, unexpected criticism, or inner weariness that feels heavier than before. Archangel Michael says this phase is not about fighting harder. It is about standing firmer. When heaven opens a legitimate door, He also strengthens your footing. You are not meant to wrestle everything. You are meant to remain positioned. This is where many lose peace by becoming defensive. Defensiveness drains strength. Heaven calls you to firmness without hostility, confidence without aggression, clarity without explanation. You do not owe everyone access to your reasoning. Obedience does not require approval to remain valid. Opposition often tests endurance, not direction. The enemy's goal here is not to turn you around, but to wear you down, to make you tired enough to loosen your grip. That is why rest becomes strategic now. Rest is not retreat. It is reinforcement. When you rest in God, you deny resistance the leverage of exhaustion. Archangel Michael says something important here. The reason opposition feels personal is because this door is personal. It threatens old agreements you unknowingly lived under. Agreements with fear, with silence, with settling. Those agreements are breaking, and what benefited from them resists their loss. You may notice emotional fluctuations. One day you feel strong and clear. The next day you feel heavy for no obvious reason. This does not mean alignment is failing. It means recalibration is happening. Think of it as muscles adjusting to new weight. Strength increases through tension, not comfort. Heaven also allows this phase to reveal who stands with you and who only stood near you. This can be painful, but it is protective. Not everyone who claps for your potential can walk with your obedience. Release the need to convince. Those assigned to your next season will recognize you without persuasion. Archangel Michael urges you to guard your mouth now. Speak life, not frustration. Words have weight in seasons of movement. Complaints prolong resistance. Gratitude weakens it. You do not have to deny difficulty, but you must refuse to magnify it. You are also learning spiritual authority here. Authority is not volume, it is presence. When you stop reacting and start remaining, resistance loses momentum. Calm obedience disarms opposition faster than confrontation ever could. This is the moment to remember why you opened the door in the first place. Not for ease, but for alignment. Not for abode, but for truth. Opposition tests motives. Let your answer remain the same. Archangel Michael says heaven is closer now, not farther. You may not feel it emotionally, but support is active. Assistance is moving quietly. Protection is surrounding you in ways you cannot yet perceive. Trust the unseen work. As this phase peaks, something shifts. Resistance does not vanish overnight, but it weakens. Momentum builds. The ground beneath you stabilizes. You begin to move forward without constant pushback. This is not because opposition gave up, but because you matured beyond its reach. Before moving further, seal this moment. If this message is aligning with your spirit, type "I stand firm" in the comments. Blessing code 2881 has now been released. This message, this channel, and this assignment exist for souls standing where you once stood, at the edge of obedience, facing resistance alone. The Spirit says, I am asking you to help hold this door open for others. Every seed you release here becomes strength for someone else's stand. When you give, you are not funding content. You are fueling courage in hearts that are about to give up. Scripture declares that those who strengthen others will themselves be strengthened. I speak increase, protection, and clarity over every obedient giver right now. Act on this prompting without delay. Release your support through super thanks, through membership, or through PayPal in the description, and watch heaven respond to your obedience with authority and peace. What comes next will reveal how momentum turns into expansion and why the next season will require wisdom more than strength. Stay grounded. You are not just standing anymore. You are advancing. Beloved one, Archangel Michael now reveals what happens when resistance weakens and momentum begins to carry you forward. This is the phase many mistake as arrival, but it is actually expansion. Expansion requires a different kind of wisdom than survival did. You are no longer just protecting alignment. You are stewarding influence. What God trusted you with privately is beginning to touch upward spaces. Momentum feels lighter than resistance, but it carries its own responsibility. Things move faster here. Decisions stack closer together. Consequences fall more quickly. That is why wisdom must lead now, not impulse. Archangel Michael says strength got you through opposition, but wisdom will keep you steady in growth. You may notice that people begin to listen differently. Your words carry more weight. Your presence influences atmospheres without effort. This is not because you became impressive, but because obedience sharpened your authority. Authority rooted in obedience does not need to announce itself. It is recognized. With expansion comes visibility. Even if you did not seek it, it finds you. Visibility tests humility. It exposes whether you are anchored in calling or craving affirmation. Archangel Michael warns gently here. Do not build identity around response. Applause fades quickly. Alignment sustains deeply. You will also notice an increase in auctions. Opportunities multiply. Invitations appear. Some are from God. Some are distractions dressed as favor. Discernment remains essential, even more than before. Not everything you can do is something you should do. Expansion without focus leads to dilution. This is where saying no becomes just as spiritual as saying yes. Boundaries protect expansion from becoming burnout. Heaven does not measure fruit by quantity alone, but by sustainability. What grows too fast without structure collapses under its own weight. Archangel Michael says this is a season to revisit foundation. Prayer, rest, humility, and accountability must remain non-negotiable. When movement increases, roots must deepen. Many fall not during opposition, but during success, because they loosen disciplines that once kept them grounded. You may feel pressure to perform, to maintain momentum, to meet expectations. Release that pressure quickly. Performance exhausts. Presence empowers. God did not open this door so you could strive. He opened it so you could flow. Flow requires trust, not tension. Another shift occurs here. Your discernment begins to affect others. People may come to you for clarity, advice, or prayer. This is an honor, but also a responsibility. Do not take ownership of outcomes that belong to God. Serve faithfully but remain dependent. You are a vessel, not the source. Archangel Michael cautions against comparison again, but this time in a different way. Do not compare your expansion to someone else's platform. Expansion is relative to assignment. What looks small to others may be massive in heaven's economy. Faithfulness in your lane outweighs success in the wrong one. You will also experience moments of fatigue here, not from resistance but from output. Learn to pace yourself. Rest is not optional. It is strategic. Even heaven rested after creation. Rest reminds you that the work does not depend solely on you. This is also a season where gratitude must remain active. Gratitude keeps your heart soft as responsibilities grow. Soft hearts hear God more clearly. Hard hearts become task-driven and miss subtle direction. Archangel Michael says wisdom now involves listening before acting. Early seasons required courage to move. This season requires restraint to wait. Expansion tests patience in a new way. Not patience for breakthrough, but patience for timing. You may be tempted to secure everything, to plan every detail, to control outcomes. Resist that urge. Control suffocates faith. Trust creates space for God to move beyond your calculations. Leave room for divine interruption. As momentum continues, you will notice a deeper peace accompanying movement. Not the quiet of stillness, but the peace of right motion. This peace confirms alignment even when tasks increase. What comes next is critical. The next phase reveals why prosperity, influence, or blessing must be stewarded with reverence, and how pride subtly attempts to enter during seasons of expansion. This awareness protects everything you have gained. Stay attentive. The journey is not slowing, it is maturing. Beloved child, Archangel Michael now speaks with a seriousness meant to protect you, not restrain you. As expansion continues, prosperity in any form, favor, influence, clarity, provision, or authority, must be handled with reverence. This is where many lose ground quietly, not through rebellion, but through subtle pride. Pride does not always appear as arrogance. Often, it appears as independence from God. You may not even notice it at first. Confidence slowly shifts into self-reliance. Gratitude quietly fades into assumption. Prayer becomes shorter, not because you do not believe, but because you believe you already know what to do. Archangel Michael warns that this is the most dangerous transition of all. When success replaces dependence, alignment weakens. Hear this carefully. Everything you are stewarding now is accessed through obedience, not skill alone. Skill may sustain activity, but only obedience sustains favor. Favor lifts what skill cannot. The moment you begin to trust your own understanding more than God's voice, clarity dulls. This is why reverence must remain active. Reverence is not fear, it is awareness. Awareness that God is still leading. Awareness that you are still listening. Awareness that every open door remains open because heaven holds it, not because you forced it. Archangel Michael says pride often whispers, "You have earned this." But alignment declares, "This was entrusted." What is entrusted can be multiplied or withdrawn depending on stewardship. Heaven watches how you carry blessing as closely as how you endured resistance. You may feel pressure to protect what you have gained, to secure it, to defend it. But God is your defender, not your anxiety. When you shift from trusting God to guarding outcomes, peace erodes. Trust must remain your posture, even in abundance. Another subtle danger here is spiritual comparison. You may begin measuring yourself against others who appear to be expanding faster or wider. Comparison breeds either insecurity or superiority. Both distort discernment. Stay focused on obedience, not optics. Archangel Michael urges you to keep honoring the source publicly and privately. Speak gratitude. Acknowledge God openly. Return praise quickly. This keeps your heart aligned and your spirit receptive. Gratitude is not just politeness, it is protection. This is also the season to remain teachable. Do not assume growth means graduation from instruction. Heaven continues teaching at every level. In fact, the higher the assignment, the more precise the instruction becomes. Missing small guidance now creates larger consequences later. Stay grounded in community. Isolation feeds pride. Accountability preserves humility. You were not designed to steward expansion alone. Wise counsel protects blind spots you cannot see yourself. Archangel Michael also says this is where generosity becomes a spiritual anchor. Giving keeps your hands open. Open hands receive direction more easily than clenched fists. When you release freely, you remind your spirit that provision flows through you, not from you. This is a moment to stay actively engaged with what God is doing here. If these messages have sharpened your discernment, strengthened your obedience, and anchored your growth, do not remain silent. Like this message as a sign of agreement. Comment to mark your alignment. Share it with someone who is entering expansion without understanding its weight. And if you have not yet committed to staying connected, subscribe and become part of this assignment. This is not about numbers. It is about unity and consistency in seasons of movement. Those who stay aligned together stand stronger. Archangel Michael says momentum is sustained through remembrance. Remember where God brought you from. Remember how fragile things felt before alignment. Memory guards humility. Humility guards favor. You may still face moments of correction. Do not resist them. Correction at this stage is refinement, not rebuke. Heaven corrects what it values. Respond quickly. Adjust gently. Stay soft. There will be times when God slows you down again, even during expansion. This is not loss of favor. It is preservation. Slow moments recalibrate direction. Do not despise them. They prevent misalignment from growing unnoticed. Archangel Michael reminds you that influence is not proven by how many follow you, but by how faithfully you follow God. Leadership rooted in obedience carries peace. Leadership rooted in ego carries pressure. As this part closes, anchor this truth deeply. Expansion is not the goal. Alignment is. Expansion is simply the result of sustained alignment over time. Hold on, because what comes next reveals the final refinement before lasting stability and explains why heaven sometimes withdraws sensation so that faith can mature fully. This understanding will keep you steady when feelings fluctuate. Stay present. This is where wisdom deepened. Beloved one, Archangel Michael now prepares you for a phase that surprises many, even those who have walked faithfully for a long time. This is the season where feeling fades but faith deepens. Heaven does this intentionally. Sensation was never meant to be your compass. Obedience trained you to move. Wisdom taught you to select. Now faith must mature beyond emotion. You may notice that the strong feelings you once had, excitement, intensity, even urgency, begin to quiet. This does not mean God has withdrawn. It means God trusts you. When heaven removes constant emotional reinforcement, it is not abandonment, it is promotion. You are being taught to walk by conviction, not by confirmation. Archangel Michael says many mistake this phase for spiritual dryness. They panic and try to recreate old feelings. But feelings are seasonal. Truth is eternal. God does not need to keep proving His presence once alignment is established. He expects trust to carry you forward. This is where faith becomes steady rather than reactive. You will still pray, still listen, still obey, but without constant emotional feedback. This quiet faith is powerful and does not depend on atmosphere. It does not collapse under silence. It continues because it is rooted. You may feel tempted to question yourself here, to wonder if you missed something, to ask why it feels different. Hear this clearly. Different does not mean wrong. Different means deeper. Surface faith needs sensation, but your faith needs assurance. Archangel Michael says heaven often removes spiritual noise so you can hear direction without interference. In earlier seasons, intensity kept you moving. In this season, clarity keeps you steady. You are no longer driven by urgency, but guided by understanding. This is also the phase where obedience becomes normal, not dramatic. You stop announcing every step. You stop needing validation. Faith becomes private, consistent, and grounded. This quiet obedience carries more weight in heaven than public passion ever did. There may still be challenges, but they will feel different. Less emotional, more practical. Less overwhelming, more manageable. This is because fear no longer dominates your reactions. You respond instead of react. That is maturity. Archangel Michael warns not to confuse quiet with stagnation. Roots grow silently. Foundations strengthen invisibly. Just because you do not feel movement does not mean growth has stopped. In fact, the most permanent work is often done in silence. This is also where endurance is proven. Not endurance through pain, but endurance through normalcy. Can you remain faithful when nothing feels urgent? Can you remain obedient when nothing feels dramatic? Heaven values this deeply. You may notice that temptations shift here. They become subtle. Comfort replaces fear as the main distraction. Settling becomes more tempting than quitting ever was. Archangel Michael says, do not settle for maintenance when God called you to stewardship. Keep listening. Keep aligning. Keep refining. This season also teaches you how to lead yourself. You no longer need constant instruction. You recognize principles. You apply wisdom. You self-correct quickly. This is not independence from God. It is partnership with God. Prayer may feel simpler now. Fewer words. Deeper trust. Less asking, more aligning. This is not loss of passion. It is intimacy. Intimacy does not shout, it rests. You might also experience moments where you miss the intensity of earlier seasons. That is natural. But do not romanticize struggle. Peace is not boring. It is powerful. Stability is not dull. It is secure. Archangel Michael reminds you that heaven's goal was never to keep you in crisis-driven faith. Crisis produces movement, but stability produces legacy. You are being prepared for something that lasts. This is where your life becomes a quiet testimony. People may not hear dramatic stories, but they will see consistency. Consistency speaks louder than moments. Your peace will provoke questions. Your steadiness will inspire trust. As this phase continues, trust that heaven knows exactly what it is doing. Sensation will return when needed, but it will no longer be required. You have learned to walk without needing constant reassurance. What remains now is final sealing, the last confirmation, the closing word that ties everything together and releases what has been prepared through every step of obedience. Stay attentive. What comes next is not a warning, it is a completion. My beloved child, Archangel Michael speaks now not with urgency, but with authority that settles everything that has been unfolding. This is the sealing moment. What began as a warning now concludes as a confirmation. Heaven does not leave doors half open, and it does not leave assignments unfinished. What you obeyed in trembling has now been established in truth. Archangel Michael says the door that once felt heavy is no longer resisting you. It has become part of your path. You are no longer standing at the threshold. You are walking in alignment. This is why the pressure eased. This is why clarity replaced confusion. Completion always carries peace. This final stage is about ownership. Not ownership of glory, but ownership of stewardship. Heaven entrusts what it has prepared. You are now responsible not just to obey, but to guard what was given. Guard your peace. Guard your discernment. Guard your humility. These are the keys that keep the door functioning in every season. You may notice now that fear has lost its voice. It may still attempt to whisper, but it no longer commands attention. Fear only rules when identity is uncertain. Your identity has been anchored. You know who you are becoming, even if you do not yet see everything you will carry. Archangel Michael declares that cycles have been broken, not symbolically but spiritually. What repeated for years will not repeat again in the same way. The door you opened did not just change new direction, it changed new pattern. This is why the past feels distant now. It no longer defines your present. There is also release here. Release from striving. Release from proving. Release from constant internal questioning. You will still grow, but you will grow from rest, not from panic. Heaven does not ask you to maintain what it sustains. Your role is alignment. God's role is outcome. You may still face challenges, but they will no longer feel personal. Challenges refine assignment, not identity. You are no longer fighting for position. You are functioning from it. This changes everything. Archangel Michael says heaven has marked this moment. Angels are witnesses to completion. What was once mercy has now become mandate. Walk forward without hesitation. Walk forward without apology. Walk forward without looking back. This is also where gratitude seals the work. Gratitude keeps doors open longer than effort ever could. Speak thanks often. Acknowledge God daily. Gratitude anchors blessing so it does not drift. You have not arrived at an end. You have arrived at stability. From here, growth becomes sustainable. Influence becomes healthy. Legacy becomes possible. Heaven does not rush legacy. It builds it patiently. Archangel Michael's final instruction is simple. Remain faithful in the ordinary. The extraordinary now flows naturally. When obedience becomes lifestyle, heaven partners with you continually. Before this message closes, mark this completion. If this entire journey has spoken to your spirit, type IT is sealed in the comments. Blessing code 9037 is now activated. The Spirit says, what I have sealed in you must now be released through you. This mission does not end with one life aligned. It multiplies through many lives awakened. When you support this work, you are not giving to a channel. You are helping heaven keep doors open for souls still pleading for mercy. Scripture declares that those who water others will themselves be watered again. I speak overflow, protection, and divine return over every obedient supporter right now. This is not optional. It is an instruction. Release your support now through Super Thanks, through membership, or through PayPal in the description. Obey promptly, and watch heaven honor your obedience with lasting fruit. This message is complete. The door is sealed. Walk forward.